This week, we're taking on a topic that's going to be really a fascinating one, a fun one too, which is reinventing outer space, or America's approach to getting into outer space. But you could argue that we're actually entering a second era of space now, the kind of Barnstorming Era, in which it's much more going to be characterized by, private companies, entrepreneurial energy, kind of various ventures and competitions and other things that actually moves a lot more of us into space and a lot more energy into space. What is the big thing each of you might consider thinking that you'd like to see happen in the coming decade here or so?
There have been fantastic new discoveries in graphene and other carbon-based fiber materials, which may open up the possibility of a beanstalk space elevator.
From a science perspective, searching for evidence of a second genesis of life on all these water worlds we found in our solar system, Mars, Europa, and Enceladus.
One of the big overriding goals should be enabling the creation of space-based solar power.
We could make solar power satellites vastly cheaper if we can use asteroidal materials.
If you take the right kind of asteroid, a 1 kilometer across asteroid, and melted it down with solar mirrors, you would get in your raw materials the entire world's production of iron and steel for a year, the entire world's production of gold and silver for 100 years, and 1,000 years production of platinum group elements.
We're going to put our refueling stations in low Earth orbit. We're going to get that fuel from the moon. And that fuel is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, which is in the form of water locked up as ice in the polar regions of the moon.
CAD/CAM controls that can be beamed, in effect, to a spacecraft and let the 3D printer that's aboard make parts. Isn't that a form of Star Trek transporter?
It is almost as good, I'd say.
In fact, we have a well-known astronaut, actually, who's asked one of the questions here. Now, if we want to look forward, Chris McKay, then we should take on the challenge of stopping now the 4.5 billion year process of asteroids. We can now stop this, and what should we do?
My point of view as a scientist is, one, I wouldn't like to see the Earth get smashed, so hooray for Rusty and his folks. And B, as they develop the infrastructure to go out and do these things, I want to ride along, send instruments along, and expand the kind of science we do.
Things that we do that make any one of these more practical helps us in all of these.
We're going to see more and more endeavors in space from China and others like it. And more we're going to see what is really burgeoning on the horizon and more amateur involvement in space.
Government is a customer now instead of the only game in town. And I like that model because it will allow us to do more things, us being scientists.
Whether they're in space or whether they're on Earth are things that require more than government to work on. Government alone can't solve them, no matter how big government is, and no matter if NASA had 100% of the federal budget, there's still things that we can't solve.
I think what we're seeing today with the ability to drive innovation faster and drive costs down, and the very active leading edge role that entrepreneurs are taking, is I think that we're seeing an era in which we can let many, if not 1,000 flowers bloom.
There are certainly technology challenges that we face with doing any type of space exploration, but I think it really is a people challenge more than anything.
So I think we are at an age where the on-ramp for the everyday citizen astronaut or citizen space engineer to actually get into the field and create an exponential growth is upon us. It's here.
If we go back to being a confident, forward-looking civilization, then space will have to be part of it because it's symbolic of that kind of people.